On Sunday, Jesus walks into Jerusalem, and the whole city feels the tension of the moment. People are excited. They throw branches on the road. They shout praise. For many of them, this looks like the beginning of something huge. It looks like Jesus is finally stepping forward to take his place in public and change the future of Israel. But just a few days later, that same Jesus will be arrested, beaten, condemned, and crucified. So what happened? How do you go from Hosanna to Crucify Him in less than a week? And why does the Bible present this as the most important week in history? That is what makes Holy Week so powerful. It begins with celebration, but it ends at a cross. And if you only look at the surface, it can feel confusing. It can even feel like everything fell apart. But when you walk through the week day by day, a bigger picture starts to appear. Jesus was not losing control. He was moving exactly where he came to go. And every day of that week reveals something essential about who he is and why he came. It starts on Sunday with what we call the triumphal entry. Jesus enters Jerusalem like a king, but not the kind of king the people were expecting. He does not arrive with soldiers. He does not come with political power. He does not march in like a revolutionary leader ready to overthrow Rome. He comes riding on a donkey, in humility, fulfilling prophecy. And that already tells us something important. Jesus really is the promised Messiah, but his mission is deeper than the crowd understands. The people are thinking about national freedom. Jesus is coming to deal with sin. They are thinking about Rome. Jesus is thinking about the human heart. They want a ruler who will change their circumstances. Jesus came first to change their standing before God. That is why the next part of the week matters so much. After entering Jerusalem, Jesus goes to the temple. The temple was the center of Jewish worship. It was the heart of religious life. But when Jesus looks at it, he does not just see a sacred place. He sees a place full of religious activity, but deeply corrupted. That is why he cleanses the temple and drives out the money changers. This was not random. It was not just a dramatic moment. It was a direct confrontation. Jesus was showing that the real problem in Israel was not just political oppression. It was spiritual corruption. The nation had religion, but not the kind of worship God desired. The fig tree in this same part of the story carries the same message. There were leaves, there was an outward appearance, but there was no fruit. That is a picture of empty religion. By Tuesday, everything gets more intense. Jesus is openly challenged by the religious leaders. They question him, test him, and try to trap him with carefully chosen words. They are not trying to learn from him. They are trying to discredit him. But every time they come at him, Jesus answers with wisdom, authority, and complete clarity. And that matters because it shows us that he is not caught off guard by any of this. Jesus knows exactly what is happening. He knows where this week is going. He is not being dragged into a crisis he failed to avoid. He is moving step by step toward the hour he came for. Even in his teachings during this time, especially when he speaks about judgment, watchfulness, and the future, he makes it clear that history is still under the rule of God. Then Wednesday comes, and the Gospels become quieter. There are fewer public events recorded that day. But silence does not mean nothing is happening. Behind the scenes, the plot is growing. The religious leaders are now actively looking for a way to arrest Jesus without starting a riot. Judas moves closer to betrayal. And this is where the week starts to expose something dark and important. Jesus is not being rejected because people simply do not understand him. He is being rejected because many do not want the truth he brings. The city is preparing for Passover while also moving toward the rejection of the one Passover was always pointing to. That is one of the sharpest ironies in the whole story. Then we come to Thursday night, and the emotional weight of the week gets even heavier. Jesus gathers with his disciples for the Passover meal, but that night he does more than keep an old tradition. He reveals what it was always meant to point to. The bread points to his body. The cup points to his blood. The old Passover remembered God delivering Israel from Egypt. Now Jesus shows that his death is about to bring a greater deliverance. He is preparing to save his people in the deepest sense. At that table, he also speaks about betrayal. He warns his disciples. He comforts them, and he washes their feet. That part should not be missed. The Lord takes the place of a servant. The king kneels down. And in that moment, Jesus shows that his kingdom does not operate like the kingdoms of this world. He did not come to save by force. He came to save by sacrifice. If this is helping you see the story more clearly, hit the like button, because Holy Week shows us that the King of Heaven stepped down to rescue sinners. After the meal, Jesus goes to Gethsemane, and this is where the cost becomes impossible to ignore. In the garden, we see the real anguish of Jesus. He knows what is ahead. He knows the cross is no longer hours away. This is not symbolic pain. This is not distant pressure. This is real agony in the presence of what he is about to bear. In Gethsemane, Jesus prays. He struggles. He submits himself fully to the will of the Father. And this matters because it shows that Jesus did not go to the cross unwillingly. He was not trapped. He was not overpowered by events. He gave himself. That is what makes his obedience so powerful. Then Judas arrives, and betrayal is sealed with the appearance of closeness. Jesus is arrested, and from that point on, the week moves fast. Through the night and into Friday morning, Jesus is taken through a series of interrogations, accusations, and trials. First before Jewish authorities, then before Roman power. The charges shift depending on what is most useful. Truth is no longer the goal. Conviction is the goal. And once again, Holy Week shows us more than what happened to Jesus. It shows us what lives inside the human heart. Religious leaders twist justice. Pilate caves under pressure. The crowd turns quickly. Peter, who swore loyalty, breaks under fear. Every layer of the story reveals the weakness and sinfulness of man. Religion fails. Politics fails. Friendship fails. Public opinion fails. But Jesus does not fail. Then we reach the center of the entire week, the cross. Jesus is taken to Golgotha and crucified. And here we need to be clear. The cross is not only the execution of an innocent man. It is not only a moving picture of love and courage. According to the Bible, the cross is the place of atonement. Jesus dies as a substitute. He takes upon himself what sinners could never fix on their own. He bears judgment. He offers himself for his people. That is why the cross stands at the center of the gospel. God's justice is not ignored there. Sin is not minimized there. And at the same time, God's grace is displayed there in its full depth. When Jesus dies and the veil of the temple is torn, the meaning is clear. Through Christ, access to God is being opened. After that, Jesus is buried. Then comes Saturday, and from the disciples' point of view, everything must have felt broken. The noise is gone. The movement appears finished. Hope seems buried in the tomb with the body of Jesus. But Saturday matters too. It proves the death of Jesus was real. He did not faint. He did not escape. This was not a staged moment. There was real death, real burial, and real silence. And that makes the next part of the story even more powerful. Then Sunday morning comes and everything changes. The tomb is empty. The stone has been moved. The women hear the news that Jesus has risen. Later, he appears to his followers, and in that moment, the whole week suddenly makes sense in a way it did not before. The triumphal entry makes sense. The temple cleansing makes sense. The Last Supper makes sense. Gethsemane makes sense. The cross makes sense. None of it was random. None of it was outside the plan of God. The resurrection shows that the cross was not defeat. It shows that Jesus is exactly who he claimed to be. It shows that his work was accepted. It shows that death did not get the final word. And that is the truth at the heart of Holy Week. This is not just the story of people turning against Jesus. It is the story of God carrying out salvation through Jesus. While men were plotting, God was saving. While the disciples were failing, Christ remained faithful. While everything looked like it was falling apart, redemption was being accomplished exactly as God intended. That is why Holy Week is not just a sad chain of events. It is the center of the Christian faith. It reveals the seriousness of sin, the perfection of Christ's obedience, the justice of God, and the greatness of his grace. And maybe the most striking part of all is this: Jesus knew. He knew what was waiting for him, and he kept going. He entered Jerusalem knowing the cross was ahead. He sat at the table knowing betrayal was coming. He prayed in the garden knowing the suffering was near. He stood in judgment knowing the verdict would be unjust. And he did all of it to fulfill the will of the Father and open the way of salvation. So if this message speaks to you, subscribe to the channel, because stories like this help us see the Bible with more clarity, depth, and connection. And before we close, consider this. Which moment of Holy Week hits you the hardest? The entry into Jerusalem, the Last Supper, Gethsemane, the cross, or the resurrection? Put it in the comments, because your answer says a lot about where this story is meeting you right now.